This podcast is made possible in part by ProHealth Physicians, along with the members of WSHU Public Radio. If you want to support what you hear, you can donate at WSHU.org.
My name is John Pendleton. I teach NAMI's premier course called Family to Family. People develop a great bond because one of the things I always tell the people in the first day of class, you're all strangers in here. By the time the third or fourth class goes on, you're like best friends.
NAMI stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They sponsor a free 8-week course called Family to Family. Hi, I'm Randye Kaye, the host of Good at Heart. We have conversations with people who quietly make the world better. Today, that's John Pendleton. It's estimated that more than 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience a mental health condition in any given year. Some of those have a serious mental illness or SMI. That means a lot of family and friends who deal with challenges in someone that they love. When that happens, there's so much to learn. That's where Family to Family comes in. I asked John about the course and how he got involved with the program.
I got involved when I had a loved one who was diagnosed with mental illness. I called one of the resource lines and they said, "Hey, you got to take this course. This will really help you." And so I investigated it and I found out that it's a course that's taught by volunteers, trained volunteers. And really it's primary to use to educate family members and friends with some of the key components or the key issues that they're going through. How'd you get a diagnosis? What happened? My life turned upside down. We approach people sometimes on the worst day of their life when the loved one is psychotic or ill. And the resources in this class, besides being, talking about medications and therapies and treatments and communication skills, you're with people who are in the same boat you're in. Because you could feel so alone when you're dealing with someone who has mental illness, psychosis. So it's been a great program, helped me a lot, and I've taught 25 classes already.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
and I learn everything every time I teach from the parents and students and friends. It really helped me a lot. It helps a
Yes,
lot
and
of
it's
people.
it's actually different. And, full disclosure, podcast listeners know that I have a son with schizophrenia, and I'm pretty open about it, about my experience with it. I'm not speaking for him, but as a mother of someone who is experiencing that, and I've probably taught this class about 16 times, and you and I help teach other people how
Yep,
to do
we
it.
do.
So you've kind of already answered that first question, who do you help and how? But, as a fellow teacher of this class, I want to point out that this isn't a support group. This is an educational
That's right.
experience where support also happens.
Exactly right.
And it's free, by the way, to take.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything with this is free. If we do it face to face, you can get literature, binders, you can make notes. We're all in one conference room. It tends to be very family oriented. People develop a great bond because many times people just bare their soul for the first time. They say things that they would never say because, many times parents and loved ones get blamed that they did something wrong as a parent.
Right.
Uh, and I tell people, if you get nothing out of this class at all, remember you did nothing wrong and you're not alone. It's just so much guilt with parents, particular mothers who, did I eat the wrong food when I was pregnant? Did I do too much exercise? Did I work too much? And I tell them that had nothing to do with it. So to get nothing out of it, you did nothing wrong.
That's so great because as I know, and of course this course when I took it was a 12-week course.
Yep.
Now it's 8. It's a little more concise, but some
Mm.
people choose to add an extra week on because they don't want it to end. So sometimes
Yep.
it's 9, but every single teacher is someone that not only is interested in helping others, but who has experience in their family. So you've kind of already answered the first 2 questions, who do you help and
Mm.
how? By the way, you co-teach. It's usually taught by a team of
Yep.
teachers, and I believe you teach with the same person all the time.
I
Um,
do.
yes, and so the second question I think you've already answered, unless you wanna add to it, which is why you? Why does this matter to you? Is there anything more about your story that you wanna share?
Yeah, it's a good point. I remember, I retired from the business world, and like I said, I had a loved one get diagnosed, and I didn't know what to do. But I said I took that course, and then I said, I want to teach this course because I wanted to actually give back a little bit because the people who taught it to me, it changed my life.
Mm,
And my co-teacher and I, we just always say, we get so much out of doing this. We get as much as we give. There's a lot of lecture, but there's a lot of interaction and emotions. And I always leave after the class tired, but
Yes.
rewarded that maybe you help someone. And then you get that note that someone says, thanks so much for doing this. It really changed my life. And we get that a lot.
Yeah.
So it may sound a little selfish, but
Yeah.
I
And,
love doing it.
altruism is always a little bit selfish, and that's okay. Like, we feel good when we help somebody else,
Yep.
and that's okay. For the record, someone taking this
Mhm.
class doesn't have to even speak. They can
Yep.
just sit and listen. We always say, learn at your own pace, take what you need. It's a lot of information, but I know with my son, the more I knew, and it's everything from information about all sorts of mental health conditions to crisis center. What do you do?
Yep.
Have to call the police. Like, it's very useful information, and something about learning it in a classroom setting with other people is so affirming as well as educational. I always say education is power. For the record, John, can this be available also as a virtual class?
Yep. Once a year, me and another co-teacher, I do it on Zoom. In fact, the last class we had was so powerful. We had 12 people on Zoom, which you think it's kind of unwieldy when you do this. But one of our big tests is, do you show up for class too? Everyone always showed up. I had people take the class from their car because they couldn't be in the house with their loved one. They didn't want them to hear what was going on. I had
Right.
people sit in a closet. And just to go back to one step is where how we get knowledge. A lot of information comes from the co-people in the classroom. Some parent or loved one might be saying, I went through this with my son and I didn't know what to do. And, we don't have all the answers, but so many people in there would, sit next to you, hold your hand, talk what worked for them,
Right.
exchange phone numbers and develop relationships. It's so rewarding when we see that. And that's when, my co-teacher and I, we just go back and we shut up a little bit and we let the dynamics work on their own.
Right, and because it's not just the teachers too who's in the class, but it's who's in the class together. I've seen
Yes.
everybody has different stages of accepting a mental illness and a loved one, and I personally have seen married couples come in when they're in totally different places, and at the very least, they understand where the other person is, and sometimes you see them get closer in agreement, get on the same page or on the same runway, as we say.
I
So,
can add one more thing to that, Randy, is that
please, yeah,
one thing I want to add, you touched on it, is, I'm talking about interaction and communications. And if you want to come in here and say nothing, it's perfectly fine.
right.
It's 100% fine. So don't feel intimidated if you're thinking of taking the course. You said, I'm not ready to share. Like Randy said, you got to take it at your own time.
I've had people take it more than once, and
Yep.
there's so much we could say about it. What I also want people to know is that the only thing that Family to Family asks of the participants is to make the commitment to come to every class, if possible, because it does build from just general information to communication skills. There's a lot to it. It doesn't fix your loved one. The teachers do not give advice. Sometimes in the parking lot, you can get advice from another
Yeah.
parent, but we're very clear that we are lay people just
Mm.
imparting the information that was created by the way, a psychiatrist in Vermont who was told parents don't need to know anything, and she
Yeah.
created this class. Is there anything that inspires you, maybe advice you got or a quote or a book that you read that is inspiring to you that you'd like to pass on?
Yeah. I collect quotes, by the way.
Oh,
I have like, I don't know, 100 of them, like just going through them. And there's one that and I can't remember who I heard it from, but it really touched me a lot, and I think about this frequently, is a healthy person has 1,000 dreams, a sick person only one. And that touched me to realize, we can go here, we can do that. Where am I gonna go to dinner tonight? What do you wanna watch? Let's go shopping. Hey, when are we going on vacation again? And the person who has ill or mental illness, who may be on husky and have no income and is going through the throes of mental illness, that person has one wish: to be better. When I heard that, it really floored me, and I re-say that to myself periodically. I just wanna be better, I don't want $1,000,000.
yeah.
Just let me have a good day maybe, you know?
Yeah, it's those hierarchy of needs for sure in
Yep.
survival, and And I will add for anybody who's new to this world that if somebody has a very severe mental illness, particularly schizophrenia,
Yep.
or when someone with a different mental illness is in psychosis, there's something called anosognosia, which is highly spoken about and researched and documented by a book called I'm Not Sick, I Don't Need Help. And people with anosognosia, which is many, many people with schizophrenia, don't even know they're ill because their brain is impaired. And so they may not even have that wish. Their wish may be, I need to find a bench to sleep on tonight. So,
Yeah.
yeah. How can others find out about this or be of help to you now?
The NAMI Connecticut website is namict.org. And in there, there's lots of information about upcoming classes. And I always tell people if they're thinking about taking the class, take the first one. And if you don't come back and it's not for you, that's perfectly fine. Some people say, oh, I travel, I'm going to miss a couple of classes. I said, that's fine too. My spouse won't come with me. I said, we'll make him or her come to the first one. You have nothing to lose. You have a lot to gain. And join NAMI too. I think you could actually become a member for like $5 a year, and you'll get tons of information. One of the big things when I took this the first time is I got a lot of knowledge, but it abated my fear where I was afraid of, where's my loved one going? What's going on? And it made it more bearable. And then it got
Mm.
better. And as I got more knowledge in teaching the course, and it can make a huge difference in your life. If you're battling with a loved one with mental illness, I strongly encourage you to go to namict.org, search under training and education. I know there's 3 classes upcoming.
Yep.
Uh,
And you're teaching one of them.
I got one
And
coming up
for
August 13th.
Yep, up soon. Okay, and for our listeners on Long Island, it would just go to NAMI.org and search on
Mhm.
New York. Actually, if anybody's listening nationally, NAMI.org, you can probably see a list of affiliates in your area and family to family classes. And if it's virtual, you can take any class you want.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
final question. This is just a personal one. I ask it of all my guests. Why do you think we're here on Earth?
A really good question. You surprised me with that one a little bit, but I think it's really to interact with people and try to help people. I've been lucky somewhat with my family and my life and my business world and all that, but when I retired, I felt a calling to do something to give back a little bit, and I didn't quite know where I fit, but then someone told me about this, and it was a good fit. I actually joined the state board. I was vice president of NAMI Connecticut State. I was president of NAMI Elm City chapter, and it was all about helping other people. Because you realize when you're doing it, there's so many more unfortunate people, and we have to work with each other and help each other. That's why I do this. That's why I think we're here.
Wonderful. Thank you. As you know, the podcast was inspired by Anne Frank's words. I still believe people are really good at heart, but also by Mr. Rogers, who always said, if bad things are happening, look for the helpers. And so thank you for being a helper. And thank you for joining us on Good at Heart.
Glad I could help. Thanks a lot, Randy.
There's so much more to hear online at WSHU.org or wherever you get your podcasts.